Sup world, sup Zion, it's been easy coming at you again once more. As usual, I do have a couple slides that I want to share with you in this fine day that we're having. And of course, before we get to the slides, I want to issue a copyright disclaimer for the copywritten material that's going to be shared in this here post. Right, so without further ado, let's dive into it. Right, it's primarily going to be updates, but you know what it is, right? Quite an insightful video. I linked it in the other video. So yeah. Yeah, this is what is happening right now. A lot of false flags, let's just call them that. Yeah, now they want to investigate. Shall address these devils. You see these fork-tongued individuals, right? This is virtual signaling. So this operation, Europe is behind it. That's why they're scapegoating Russia. For whose benefit? Definitely not the Ukrainians, because the Russians are not the ones that are holding up the elections. You can have protests, but you can't have elections. Are you kidding me right now? I just showed you the video the other day. Hey, right? You need to focus. This is what I'm telling you, right? You need to focus. It's not the elites, it's not their children, but rather it's aliens, right? It's UAPs. Okay. So, is this you throwing weight into the scales or something? Because from what I hear, you have declared war against Russia, haven't you? We are not a fair weather friends, right? Birmingham say, right? The unelected, of course. We'll be there for Ukraine when it needs us, and that will not change. Okay, that's a statement that he has the legitimacy to make. But again, I like to remind people of consequences existing. Yeah, I keep saying, why do I keep emphasizing this point of what the education system is doing in Asian countries and what it can potentially even do to us Africans, right? This is for them, the Asians, to course correct, and of course for us not to fall into the same pattern, but it's actually a thing. So as I was watching this, as you can see here, towards a new geopolitical reality, navigating the aftermath of the liberal world order, right? Again, virtual signaling from the beginning. So as you know, who has been preparing this liberal world order, who agreed to it, who wanted it, right? And the talking about China here is the one that is most concerning, right? Because in reality is that they feel like you owe them or some, right? And what they expected you to do as a Chinese after you have come up is to basically allow them more access, right? And that's what they're actually even intending to do here in Africa, right? All of this open market, free trade and stuff, like I said, it is impossible, especially in the position Africa is in, to call it trade. It's something else, right? Because the gap is too large, hence the formation of classes, right? Because one has the power and leverage over the other to impose, and that is what their so-called liberal world order has been, right? Their monetary system, which they created without our involvement. The UN was created without our involvement. All of these systems that were created by these individuals so as they can have influence over nations, basically making the whole notion of elections and what nations want irrelevant. Literally, this is how much power these individuals wield. And when they don't get their way, just like from the second left said from the meeting, expect conflict to flare up. Because what are they going to do to China? Like, tell me, like, seriously, what are they going to do? Right? Because as everything they're doing right now, because we should not be naive, right? Everything that they're doing now is literally forcing more companies to flood to China, and that's what has been happening. So what can they do? War. Because information warfare, they're not going to win. War. To make the whole country unconducive for investment, to scare them away, just like the Jewish tactics, right? To cause mayhem so as to force them to go back to the so-called promised land. So it's a mentality that has many heads, and it wields these heads in different locations, but it's the same beast, and it is infectious because it has infected even the poor, right? They want to partake in this drunkenness, right? This reckless behavior, expecting that the world will stand still at their whim, Eminent domain, quite an interesting concept, Well, the so-called Board of Peace, right? It started there. Qatar, United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, and then to Kushner, to Witkoff, and those are their companies, people that found the trail of money, and these are the people that want to rebuild Gaza into their image. So yeah, figure that out. While we're talking about the Board of Peace, how can they do that? Yes, they can, because there isn't anything to check them in their so-called liberal world order, right? And the supposed money that was set aside has vanished into some JP Morgan situation. Yeah, from the height, I know she done kicked in the chest of yeah, iniquities. I'd like to remind you of a story that this guy planned to execute the Israelites in the same fashion, right? And they ended up being the one being hanged. And that's what's coming for you, so-called Ben Gavir. They overshoot. Why are they talking about somebody else's pile stock? Aggression. That's why. Yeah. Tshisekedi above, Saudi Arabia below. Below that, yeah, things are looking great when it comes to tech. Turkey is not Iran or Assad's Syria. This is not a strategic problem vis-a-vis Turkey that cannot be resolved, mitigated, or deferred to the long term through discrete contacts coordinated with the United States and its influence in Turkey and Syria. Netanyahu has completely gone off the rail. Yeah, that is Barak Ehudi, a whole European. Huh? They are calling for the economic D-Day, they say. Well, I don't believe that's their strategy. What they have is just a couple jets and couple what do they call them? Warthogs? Is that what they call them? And hoping. Interesting. Interesting. So, the attacks in Syria, even the attacks in the Kurds, right, that I covered the other day, apparently that is also a false flag. So yeah, a lot is unfolding, let's just say that. The attack in Syria is a provocative and dangerous move that brings us closer to a confrontation with Turkey and deepens the rift with our allies, chief among them the United States. Once again, military forces being employed for political consideration, and once again, Israel pays the price in security. Netanyahu proves once more that he is an extremist and unreliable figure, one we cannot rely on, certainly not to build a stable regional strategy with. Right? In this way, he erodes trust in Israel, alienates us from the partners and allies. Israel needs leadership that knows how to wield power to achieve security, not to generate yet another war of political survival. Okay, these statements are grand, let me tell you that. But the intent is all the same, right? Kill, steal, destroy. That's their playbook. Look at their museum, their so-called places where they store history. Look at it. And it's written all over. It might be as well printed a big ass board in the entrance. This is where we keep all the stuff we stole after we killed a lot of people. And also what we couldn't carry, we destroyed. Right? From West Africa to Southern Africa. Everything magnificent that was there, they're destroying it. Right? And I don't think those pyramids in the Sudan will survive. This is the MO, you see. Yeah. Well, by the way things are going, I don't know. Meanwhile, eh? Finna sanction you. Hmm? Forehead in your hand, right? Everything is on schedule, I guess. Everything is on schedule, right? So people are confused. What's the common theme, right? All of these new movies, right? Starting from Him, right? And then it came after and followed. They Will Kill You, right? The same thing. The elites being wrecked. Why? Well, I believe the devil knows how this goes. Shall have a conversation in another video. Melissa Ford Maldonado says Cuba is a great threat to the United States. That's why they need to go. Right? They are a hostile communist regime. So Melissa says. And also, they have a whole paper out. Cuba, the capital of 21st century communism. Right? And of course, Rubio is on top of this. Keep crossing the lines, please. Keep finding your own demise. Hmm? This is a proper revolution. Questioning existing so-called standards. Hmm? Well, that's the overlook. Right? I have no good news for you, brothers and sisters, unfortunately. Right? That's the reality, brothers and sisters. I have no good news for you. Right? They're gonna do what they know and what they are. Right? And the question remains, are we going to stand by while this happens? So anyway, Prince Easy, I'll put a pin on it right there. Signing out. Love you. Bye.